You grab your keys, your bag, you check the clock, and as you open the door to leave the house, your dog is right there, watching, tail down, eyes wide, body still. They're not barking, they're not whining, but they know. They've seen this routine before. And what happens next isn't just about waiting, it's about how you leave, and the one small thing you might be doing that breaks their heart every single time. Most people assume that dogs get used to being alone, that once you shut the door, they go back to sleeping peacefully or playing with their toys. But for millions of dogs, the opposite is true. The moment you leave isn't just the beginning of silence, it's the beginning of stress, confusion, emotional unraveling. And all of it is linked to something we do without thinking, the way we say goodbye. This video isn't about the usual tips. It's not a checklist of how long you can leave your dog alone or how to distract them with treats. It's about a much deeper truth, that dogs are emotional beings who interpret your every movement, word, and ritual. They notice patterns, they anticipate outcomes. And when you create a pattern filled with tension, sorrow, or excessive affection right before you walk out that door, you're building a moment they will dread every single day. Let's think about it. Most people, before leaving their dog, go through a specific emotional routine. They crouch down, they pet them slowly, they whisper, "I'll be back soon." They look into their eyes and apologize. They kiss their heads. They say goodbye like it's the last time they'll ever see them. And while this may feel loving, comforting, even responsible, it's actually a psychological trigger. You're conditioning your dog to associate the act of you leaving with sadness, with fear, with that exact tone of voice, that look in your eyes, that quiet goodbye. You're building emotional anticipation, not peace, not confidence, fear. And here's the part that hurts the most. Your dog is listening, not just with their ears, but with their entire nervous system. Dogs are incredibly sensitive to emotional shifts. They pick up on changes in your breathing, your heart rate, your tone. They detect anxiety. So when you inject tension into your departure, even in the name of love, they feel it. And because they can't process it the way humans do, that energy builds up with nowhere to go. It turns into whining, pacing, destructive chewing, barking, or worse, complete shutdown. This isn't separation anxiety. This is created anxiety, and most of us are the ones unknowingly building it. Now imagine this. What if you simply walked out without saying a word? What if leaving wasn't a dramatic goodbye, but a neutral event? What if your dog didn't see you off with worry, but simply noticed your absence without panic? In this documentary, we're going to expose the most common emotional mistake dog owners make when they leave their pets alone. We'll unpack the silent psychology behind that goodbye moment, show how it evolves in a dog's mind, and reveal how changing just one small part of your routine can transform your dog's entire experience of being alone. We'll also explore how dogs experience time, why your absence feels longer than it really is, and how certain behaviors that seem harmless, like turning on sad music or prolonging your farewell, are actually making things worse. Because being a good dog guardian isn't just about feeding them well or playing in the park. It's about understanding the emotional rituals that shape their world. It's about knowing that your departure doesn't start when the door closes. It starts with how you prepare to leave. And the best part? You don't need to buy anything. You don't need to train for weeks. You don't even need a new schedule. You just need to see the world through their eyes. So if you've ever whispered, "I'll be back," and felt a pang of guilt, if you've ever come home to a torn pillow or a dog too exhausted to greet you, if you've ever wondered what they feel while you're gone, this is the truth that could change everything. Because what you do in the last 30 seconds before leaving the house could be either breaking their heart or building their resilience. Let's find out which one it is. Let's break down what really happens in your dog's mind when they see you preparing to leave. Because for them, this isn't a neutral moment. It's a ritual, a sequence, a script that plays out exactly the same way every single day. And they know every beat of it. You grab your bag, you put on your shoes, you check your phone, you look at them, maybe you sigh. Maybe you say something like, "I'm sorry, buddy. I'll be back soon." You kneel. You pet their head. You try to reassure them. But what you're really doing is creating emotional dissonance. Because here's what your dog is processing. Your words say love. Your voice says sadness. Your energy says tension. And then, you disappear. This contrast is deeply confusing to a dog. Their world is built on consistency, on trust and patterns, so when you create an emotional peak just before disappearing, they don't interpret it as comfort. They interpret it as danger, a storm before silence, a moment of warmth followed by abandonment. Dogs thrive on emotional congruence. That means, when your behavior matches your energy, they feel safe. But when you say soft words while radiating stress, when you pet them while your heartbeat is racing, when you give affection while your body says, "I'm about to leave you," they sense the contradiction. And it creates anxiety that builds over time. This is why some dogs eventually start hiding when they notice you putting on shoes, or they bark more, or they chew furniture. They're not misbehaving. They're trying to make sense of an emotional puzzle that never resolves. Now imagine this happening every single day. The same sequence, the same feelings. You leave with guilt, they're left with stress. And over time, that stress becomes a learned response. Even before you touch the doorknob, their body tenses. Their cortisol levels spike, their heart beats faster, they brace for what's coming. And here's where it gets even more heartbreaking. Some dogs internalize it. They become quieter, more withdrawn. You might think they're getting used to it, but often they're just shutting down. Their nervous system is adapting to the daily emotional roller coaster by numbing itself. This is not peace, it's exhaustion. Now, let's talk about the one mistake so many of us make, the dramatic goodbye. It's not just the words, it's the timing, the tone, the drawn-out ritual of leaving. You pause, you crouch, you whisper, you give kisses. It feels like love to you. But to your dog, it's the warning sign that something bad is about to happen. You're conditioning their brain to expect distress after affection. Think of it like a horror movie. Every time the eerie music starts, you know something bad is coming. Your dog feels the same way about your goodbye cues. They hear the "I love you," and their body says, "Brace yourself," because they know what comes next. Silence, loneliness, confusion, and the tragedy? They learn this not because they're broken, but because they're brilliant. They remember, they anticipate. They love you so much they study you down to the breath. So what's the solution? It starts with breaking the emotional pattern. The best way to reduce your dog's stress when you leave is to make your departure boring. No drama, no sorrow, no long eye contact, no drawn-out affection. Instead, treat it like brushing your teeth. Casual, neutral, unremarkable. When you stop feeding the moment with emotion, your dog stops bracing for it. This doesn't mean you stop loving them. It means you love them better. You offer stability, not confusion. Confidence, not pity. You say, "This is normal, this is safe, this is no big deal." And your dog? They'll start to believe you. In the next section, we'll go deeper into how dogs interpret time, how your scent lingers while you're gone, and how to rewire the goodbye ritual into something that builds security instead of sadness. Because love isn't just what you feel. It's how you shape their world when you're not even there. To truly understand what your dog experiences after you leave, we need to step inside their world. And their world doesn't work like ours. Dogs don't wear watches, they don't read clocks, but they do perceive time, just not in the way we do. They sense it through patterns, light, shadows, smells, and above all, your scent. The moment you leave, your scent begins to fade, slowly, minute by minute. And studies have shown that dogs actually use the concentration of your scent in the house as a kind of clock. In experiments, dogs have been known to wait at doors or windows, not because they knew the time, but because they could detect the drop in their humans' scent levels. That means your absence isn't marked by silence or boredom. It's marked by loss. Gradual, invisible loss. Now imagine you've already triggered anxiety with a dramatic goodbye. You've left them with tension in their body, confusion in their mind, and a house that smells less like you every minute. And what fills that gap? Their own stress hormones. Cortisol, adrenaline, and norepinephrine rise in the bloodstream. These chemicals prepare the body for action, for survival. But your dog has nowhere to run, no way to fix the problem, no tools to understand what happened. They're simply left in a space filled with the echoes of your departure. And here's the twist. Dogs don't get used to it the way we think they do. What really happens is that their stress becomes chronic. It goes underground. It stops being dramatic and starts being quiet. But make no mistake, It's still there. This is where behavior changes start. Subtle at first. Maybe they stop greeting you with the same excitement. Maybe they hesitate before you leave. Maybe they sleep more or less. You chalk it up to age or personality, but often it's coping. A silent adaptation to a daily trauma they've never been given the tools to understand. And remember, not all dogs show distress the same way. Some cry, some chew, some digging, some pace, but some do nothing. They simply internalize it. These are the ones we often overlook because we assume that quiet means okay. But in animal psychology, silence can be a symptom of shutdown. The moment your dog stops reacting to your departure isn't necessarily growth. It might be emotional fatigue. Let's talk about scent enrichment. One of the most powerful ways to comfort your dog in your absence is to leave behind your smell in a stable, reassuring way. Not a shirt you just sprayed perfume on, but something you've truly worn. A pillowcase, a scarf, a sock. Items saturated in your natural scent help ground your dog emotionally while you're away. Some behaviorists even recommend rotating these items so that your dog doesn't form obsessive attachments to one object, but rather maintains a consistent sense of your presence in different parts of the home. But even this can't fix the damage caused by the goodbye ritual if it remains dramatic and emotional. Because the moment of departure is the seed from which the rest of the day grows. If you plant anxiety in that moment, you grow distress. If you plant neutrality, you grow peace. So, how do we rewire the goodbye? First, start desensitizing your cues. Pick up your keys without leaving. Put on your shoes, and then sit on the couch. Grab your bag and walk around the kitchen. Break the pattern. Remove the emotional weight from these actions so your dog stops associating them with loss. Next, leave quietly. No words, no eye contact, no last-minute kisses. Just go. Think of it like turning off a light. Clean, calm, unemotional. Then, when you return, don't create a reunion parade. Walk in. Hang your coat. Put down your things. Wait for your dog to settle. Only then initiate affection. This tells your dog, my comings and goings are normal. They're not dramatic. You're safe. Over time, your dog learns that your departure is not the end of the world. It's just part of the rhythm of life. And that is the greatest gift you can give them. Because the goal isn't to eliminate time apart. It's to eliminate the emotional damage that time apart creates. In the next section, we'll explore how to create safe spaces in the home, the role of environmental enrichment, and the subtle signals your dog leaves for you every day that show how deeply they're affected by your routine. Because if you truly want to protect their heart, you need to understand their silence. Now that we've explored how your dog emotionally processes your departure, let's shift focus to what happens inside your home while you're gone, and how the space itself can either comfort or distress your dog in your absence. First, let's talk about environmental consistency. Dogs are territorial animals. They find comfort in familiar smells, sounds, and spatial patterns. But when you leave, especially after an emotionally intense goodbye, that environment changes, not physically but energetically. The air becomes still, the scent of movement vanishes, the energy of connection disappears. And for a dog who has learned to associate your leaving with fear or loneliness, the house itself can feel haunted by that absence. Many dogs will go to the last place they saw you. They'll lay near the door, they'll watch the window, some will wait by your scent trail, curling up on the spot you last stood, trying to hold on to what's no longer there. And then the mind begins to wander. For dogs with heightened emotional sensitivity, the stillness becomes a trigger. They pace, they bark, they chew, not because they're bad or disobedient, but because they need to move to manage the storm inside. Chewing, digging, licking, these are all forms of self-soothing in dogs. They're trying to regulate their nervous system without you. Now imagine this dog already received a dramatic emotional goodbye. That moment becomes the emotional matchstick that lights a 4-hour fire of internal panic. And what's worse, by the time you return and scold them for the torn pillow or the scratched door, they're not learning what not to do. They're simply absorbing your disapproval as another layer of emotional confusion. So what can we do to change this internal landscape? First, design a safe zone. This isn't a punishment space, it's not a crate thrown in a corner or a bathroom with a closed door. It's a den, a place that feels enclosed, safe, personalized. It should include your scent, calming textures, and ideally, some element of mental stimulation, puzzle feeders, chew toys, frozen Kongs, or audio specifically designed to calm canine anxiety. Research shows that dogs left with scent-enriched objects and slow-releasing enrichment toys experience lower cortisol levels and recover from owner absence more quickly. Think of it as creating an emotional anchor, a space that says, "You're alone, but you're not forgotten." This space is made for you. Second, consider predictable auditory cues. Dogs respond well to rhythmic soundscapes, white noise, gentle music, even heartbeat sounds. But here's the key. Those sounds should be introduced when you're home first. If you only play them while you're gone, they become associated with your absence. But if you use them during calm bonding time, they become a comfort cue, a soundtrack of safety. Now, about cameras and pet tech, while they can be helpful for monitoring, avoid the temptation to talk to your dog through the speaker. Hearing your voice without seeing you can increase confusion and frustration. Your dog will start searching for you, feeling teased by the presence of sound but the absence of scent and sight. Instead, use tech passively to learn their rhythms, not to insert your presence unnaturally. But perhaps the most overlooked aspect of your absence is this. Your dog leaves messages for you every day, not with words, but with body language, behavior, and placement. The sock they moved to their bed? That was a comfort anchor. The scratched wall near the door? A sign of longing, not defiance. The half-eaten toy? A form of emotional displacement. These are not random acts. They're communication. And the more attuned you become to their patterns, the more you'll see your dog not as an animal who needs training, but as a being asking for emotional support. Most behavior labeled as separation anxiety isn't a disorder. It's a response to a pattern they were never emotionally equipped to understand. And in many cases, it's reversible, with consistency, with empathy, and above all, with neutrality in the moments that matter most. The quietest way to heal your dog's anxiety is to stop feeding it emotionally, to create a life where your comings and goings aren't loaded with drama, but layered with trust. Because in the end, your dog doesn't need a speech when you leave. They need a routine, a rhythm, a safe place, and a guardian who knows that the real damage isn't done in the hours apart. It's done in the 30 seconds before the door closes. And that's where you have the power to change everything. So here we are, back at the door, the place where it all begins. By now, you understand that this isn't just a door to your home. It's a symbol, a threshold between comfort and absence. And every time you walk through it, your dog's world shifts. Not because you're leaving, but because of how you leave. And here's the quiet truth we often avoid. Dogs don't measure love by how much time you spend together. They measure it by how safe they feel when you're not there. Think about that for a moment. Your dog's trust isn't built when you're throwing a ball, or feeding them treats, or even cuddling on the couch. It's built in the spaces in between, in the moments of silence, distance, waiting. It's in the faith that you'll come back, in the belief that your leaving doesn't mean abandonment, that your goodbye doesn't carry fear, that your absence isn't a storm, just a pause. And the beautiful part? That trust is something you can shape every single day by walking out the door without drama, by removing guilt from your voice, by giving neutrality instead of sorrow, by creating safe routines, by observing their signs instead of correcting them, by listening with your heart, not just your eyes. This is the quiet revolution of modern pet care. We're moving beyond commands, beyond tricks, beyond convenience. We're learning to listen, to translate silence, to become fluent in their language of tail flicks, pacing, size, and stillness. Because your dog isn't asking you to stay forever. They're just asking you to leave with peace. They don't need a speech. They need emotional stability. They don't want pity. They want confidence. They don't crave a grand goodbye. They crave a life where your leaving doesn't hurt. Imagine this: a world where every time you leave, your dog yawns, stretches, walks to their bed, and settles down with calm eyes. Not because they don't love you, but because they trust you'll be back. Because they've learned that goodbye is safe. Ordinary, no big deal. That's the world you can build. Not with products, not with punishments, but with presence, with intention, with the choice every single day to protect their heart even when you're not there to hold it. If this video made you see your dog and yourself a little differently, we invite you to subscribe to Mundo Animal. Here, we dive deep into the emotional lives of animals. We don't just teach pet care, we uncover emotional truth. Because your dog doesn't speak your language, but they understand your energy, your patterns, your choices. And when those things align with safety and peace, they love you not just out of instinct, but out of trust. Share this with someone who leaves a dog behind every day. Help them see the door not as an ending, but as a beginning. A new way to say goodbye. A better way to love.